Goblin Cave contains strong language and potentially distressing content. Viewer discretion is advised.
Right.
Chaos before we even started.
We've not started yet. Cool. So, let's start, I guess.
That's going to be actually where we start. That's the start now.
The moment.
That's the start now. That's the start.
Just let's start now. No. Hello and welcome to the Goblin Cave podcast.
Hey.
I'm Lauren Hegarty, and I'm joined by...
Hi, I'm Jack McAdam. I am also a member of the Goblin Cave family. We're both here with...
And I'm Seb Romanu, currently speaking over two people who live in a different city than I do, because COVID.
Because COVID, and
This
because...
has been filmed in COVID conditions.
because Seb is far more talented than either of us.
yourself.
Lives in London to fulfill his dreams.
I mean, anybody can move to London. I don't necessarily think moving to London immediately defines a human being as being talented. If anything, moving to London is a distinct lack of talent, because you're like, oh, you moved all the way down to London. Okay, enjoy being poor. Enjoy not being able to
Surely
afford
that's just
things.
anyone under the age of like 35 living in. Nope, not going to go into politics this early into the podcast.
We haven't even fucking started.
Hi, as you can tell,
guys.
this is majorly unscripted because we like to be as realistic as we can, which is just pure unbridled chaos.
Yay.
There's going to be a lot of ums and ahs, and please pray for my two co-hosts, as I've just created not many, just a couple of questions. And neither of them know the questions, except for Jack, who's decided to look at my laptop just as I said that.
To be honest,
I can't do that because I'm all the way here.
From the list of questions, that's a lot we can discuss.
They're nice questions.
Yes, they are very good questions.
Yeah.
It's just articulating them into a proper dialogue.
Dialogue.
So...
Trialogue.
Three people. Is that a thing?
It is now.
That's a thing. Like, comments, and subscribe if that's a thing.
I hate you so much.
Like, comment, subscribe. That's going to be my
Don't forget to hit
catchphrase.
that red light button. No,
Hit the red light. Red light.
Not the red light. No.
Sam.
We've not even started, and we're so far.
Hello, my
off
job
topic.
is derailing.
So, I'm so sorry, dear listener. This is our first ever episode, as you can no doubt tell from the absolute ridiculousness that is currently being recorded. What we were hoping was this podcast is going to be something really fun. It's going to be very much fantasy based. I personally wanted to create something that would open a really big dialogue around fantasy, because I think that it gets quite a bad rep sometimes. And these two amazing, wonderful people that I love more than life itself basically just yes-anded me and then created a whole host of other stuff that I was never clever enough to come up with. So it's going to be really good. I hope.
Yeah, it will be fun.
It'll be fun. It'll be fine. Just gonna have a chill little discussion about fantasy stuffs, the goods, the bads, the ins, the outs.
So I figured we'd kind of go into this one a little bit easier, basically, I thought what would be super fun is an introduction to us and our introductions and thoughts about fantasy in all different types of media. So, basically, my first question was, what was your first fantasy, memory? What was the first thing that you kind of inhaled as a child that took you down this path of fantastical beasts?
And where to find them?
And no.
Hey.
No.
Not that one. That one's
We don't
banned.
bring up cash grabs.
We don't
Spoiler
bring up,
alert.
we don't bring up that.
It wasn't
that
Harry
writer.
Potter.
No, we do not.
I have an idea. If I shall go first.
Yeah, go on.
Do you have an idea? You take the floor.
Okay. So the first sort of memory of not science fiction, fantasy. It's because what I'm going to say is science fantasy, and I know both of you will know where I'm going with this. Mm-hmm. It's the behemoth of a franchise that is Star Wars.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's one of those vivid memories of visiting relatives' houses where there's always that specific thing that you remember doing or you remember watching or something that was always on screen. Mm. And it was always, when growing up, we had a copy of Return of the Jedi, but it was a VHS recording of one of the TV runs. So
one of those
Amazing.
illegal runs. It was like on Sky Movies and like.
Oh yeah,
I have one of those,
ITV.
I have one of those, but it's for Chicken Run, and it very specifically cuts out right in the middle for a commercial for I think Ice Age that was just recorded over. No, it's like a Thanksgiving advert of something, and then it goes back into Chicken Run. It's the weirdest fucking thing. Anyway, yeah, continue.
Yeah, at home we had a VHS copy of Return of the Jedi, and I always remember distinctly whenever I visited my uncle's house, they always had the proper copy, so it had the full artwork on the VHS box, all this, that, and the other, and there was us at home that was just a tape with a bit of writing on the label on the side of it. But to this day as well, Return of the Jedi being my favourite Star Wars film, I always vividly remember always wanting to watch it and wanting to just re-experience the film again and again and again. And it did sort of help that, I suppose all of us, I know you didn't watch Star Wars growing up, but I assume Seb will agree with me.
You didn't have to call me out this early on the podcast.
Wow.
Wow.
Growing up in peak prequel era, it meant that we were fully engrossed in Star Wars mania, I suppose, at that point. Because we were at the age where we didn't really care as much about the stories. It's only growing up and seeing them for what they are that we know how flawed the actual stories are.
Yeah,
but the spectacle...
Love them.
Yeah, we still love them. But the spectacle back then, it drew me in, sort of the idea of that the Force is this mystical energy, obviously, and an allegory for magic in the universe, and the knights, the Jedi, and like the sort of the evil sorcerers and sages hellbent on destruction, the warlocks being the Sith. Yeah. So I know it's not true fantasy, but the elements of it that were there drew me into that sort of domain of wanting to experience more and more of these fantastical ideas, both books, gaming, film, stories, you name it. So yeah, that's sort of where mine began, at the very least, very distinctly.
You see, for me, it's quite difficult to sort of to pin it down. Like, for the longest time, I never really considered myself a fantasy fan, which I know it's weird now sitting down here and being like, we're going to start a fantasy podcast thing.
We're in the middle of like 3 D&D campaigns.
Yeah. God,
all we do is quote fantasy games, fantasy films with one another.
It's a time, and it's something that's only occurred to me really recently. Like, for instance, and this is going to set a few people off. I know that it definitely sets my housemate off. I only watched Lord of the Rings when I was 18. That was when I first watched The Lord of the Rings, because I just had no interest in them whatsoever. Not out of like anything malicious. I think I was just like I was one of those kids who didn't like popular things, because I associated popular things with like mean kids on the playground who all play football. So I just, in a weird sort
So you
of,
were a hipster.
I was a hipster growing up. It's really, really pathetic. But I think I conned myself out of a entire community of people who could have accepted me by being like, oh, I don't want to get involved with that. But I think going back to like what would have been my first introduction, I think it's honestly, and I know, but it's probably Harry Potter. Probably, I think it was in like year 1 or year 2. My teacher saying, Seb, you have to read something for a book report. And me being a shitty little kid who hates to read, I still don't read very much now. I looked at the bookshelf and said, I'll pick this one. And it was Philosopher's Stone. And I remember...
That's a, like, hefty book for such a young child to read as well.
To be fair, it's like, looking back, it's only like 114 pages, so like, it's not bad. And I was quite an advanced reader for my age. I just would be reading non-fiction books, like horrible history books, or even just reading out of an encyclopedia. So for me, it wasn't a case of like it being too advanced or anything, but it was just that it was just like a fluke of just, I knew that my sister was into them, so I decided, I'll read this book, and really, really enjoyed it. Ended up then reading the second book many times. That ended up being my favorite one, and I think and the weirdest thing is that I never really associated Harry Potter with a wider branch of fantasy. I never associated, when I finally watched Star Wars, I watched Star Wars when I think I was 8 or 9. After like kids on the playground just couldn't stop talking about it, and I was like, okay, I can see I've missed something. I'm gonna go and look into this, and then got really into Star Wars. But again, I never associated that with fantasy. There was always like this divide that I feel like growing up, I just avoided fantasy. Stuck with sci-fi stuff. I decided at one point I was into sci-fi stuff, not realizing, of course, Star Wars is a science fantasy thing. And being very adamant, I didn't like fantasy. I'm not about fantasy, witches and wizards and stuff. Only Harry Potter, and then nothing else. And yeah, it was kind of defining, but then now here we are, 3 D&D campaigns in.
Oh.
Yeah, that's my spiel. What about you, Lauren? What was your introduction? You can't just ask us these questions and not expect them back. That's not how this fucking works.
I've made a mistake. Well, because I think mine was... I was reading books very young, and my mum used to read me books, and one of the ones that she used to read me was... Oh, it feels so childish to say, but of course it was because I was a child. The Magic Faraway Tree by Enid Blyton. So I loved The Famous Five, which was fiction, but not fantasy. But then The Magic Faraway Tree was these kids could go to a tree and climb up it, and there were these amazing, ridiculous wee characters there, like Silky the Fairy and Mr. What's-His-Face and... What?
Why am I now only 24 years old understanding that the Magic Faraway Tree is just the World Tree?
That's why there's different lands at the top of it.
Yeah.
Every time you climb it, there would be different lands. And one of the things that, of course, because food, I guess, one of the things that I always wanted to try was there were these like biscuits that you could bite them, and then it would feel like it was expanding in your mouth to the point that it felt like it was going to pop, and then warm honey would fill your mouth. And they sounded amazing. And also I wanted to go on the slide down the Magic Faraway Tree.
Well, you've been on Nemesis, it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. It's basically the same.
pretty much the same thing.
You know, Alton Towers, Magic Faraway Tree. Enid Blyton knew what she was doing. But it was that kind of like so like that. I used to read like just ridiculousness, really, like the Spiderwick Chronicles and the Snow Spider trilogy was another big one. And then I think the point where I realised that I was into fantasy was Merlin 2009.
Merlin.
That is a callback.
Right?
I completely avoided the Merlin train. Like, I only first watched an episode of Merlin when I was at university, and I was shown it by my then girlfriend. And I was just like, wow, production quality on this one is...
10 out of 10.
Look at those graphics.
Look at those graphics.
It was...
but it was... Because the thing is, as well, is that at one point, iTunes did the 12 Days of Christmas, and you could get one thing free every day on iTunes, and one of the things was the first episode of Merlin. So I know the first episode of Merlin word for word, because I watched it, and watched it, and watched it, and genuinely...
As a podcast episode.
What?
It's just you reciting the script of the first episode of Merlin.
Future podcast episode is just a one-woman show as the first episode of Merlin.
A dramatic retelling of episode 1 of Merlin from the BBC.
This is not the Goes Wrong show. But it was that thing, and because I remember the curse where she was like, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, a son for a son, and then she just went off.
Spoilers?
This is the first episode, my guy!
And then
Spoilers
your
for a 2009 BBC show.
But yeah, it was that kind of thing of like, I read a lot of fantasy and stuff, but then Merlin and also Stardust, they were two real big, heavy hitters. And of course, Harry Potter. I know, please do not fund that author. Just don't, but it was something that got me into fantasy. That's just, you know.
Well, I think the thing with Harry Potter is, like, as an entity, and I've had these conversations a lot with my housemate, is that Harry Potter is just such an entity. It's a thing. It's a major part of a lot of our generation's childhood growing up. We grew up with Harry Potter. For a lot of people, like, seeing Harry grow up, like, I can't tell you how many words, like
all of the words.
You'll have to bear with me. My words, they do come eventually. But I don't know any kid who didn't hope beyond hope when they turned 11 that they would get a letter from Hogwarts. I don't know any kid who doesn't at least know Harry, Ron, and Hermione, or Expelliarmus. I don't know any kid growing up around our age who a part of their life wasn't somehow touched by Harry Potter, even in an annoyed way, in a like, oh, well, everybody likes Harry Potter, I really don't. Like, it's so ubiquitous. You can't get away from it.
As you say, it just took on like a form of its own. It ceased being, and I think as well that's something that's very good, is that it's been reclaimed by fans. There is a lot of kind of AU stuff that's out there, and stuff that I now treat as canon. I'm like, yes, 100% this is what happened. But like, that's the thing with our generation as well, is like, I'm very sadly one of those people, like, I know what my Harry Potter house is, but I do not know my blood type. Like,
that's the same with me. I need to get that checked out. Like, comment, and subscribe for Seb's blood type.
But yeah, like, because I'm devastated to be a Gryffindor. I have tried repeatedly to not be a Gryffindor.
I'm proud to be a Hufflepuff. Fuck you.
You are the most Slytherin Hufflepuff in the whole goddamn world.
And then there's me, just the classic blue boy.
You are just a blue boy.
A nice blue.
No!
Blue house.
We said no politics.
What politics? It's just a weird way of saying the word blue.
Blue.
See, I was strange for the most part. I missed.
What do you mean was?
Thanks. I missed. For the most part, I missed the beginning stages of the Harry Potter hype train.
Oh, I was in reception. We were playing Quidditch on the playground. Like, we were that sad. Shout out to Nathan, Kate, and Ben.
I watched the first 3 films, but I haven't read the first 3 books. It was only after watching the 3rd film that I was like, right, yeah, I'll read through the rest of the books. Managed to get through them. I say managed; they were pretty good.
That's so strange.
Yeah, but yeah, like sort of big time of their first sort of huge spotlight into the public eye with the films was very much. I was maybe a film late to it. So I only really started to enjoy them during Chamber of Secrets, which as a 8-9-year-old child is terrifying, by the way.
I think Harry Potter managed to do something that not a lot of... Because it's teen fiction. It is. Like, it did something that not a lot of, like, YA fantasy does, where it managed to keep the hype train going.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, things with, like, The Hunger Games and Divergent and Maze Runner... They all had their moment and like exploded onto the screen.
Yeah.
They all fizzled out. Probably because it was a bit too dystopian and everyone was like, listen, life's shit, we don't need to be told that it's going to get worse. But Harry Potter just exploded. And it did. It became uncontrollable.
I suppose to that end, the dystopian feeling, as Harry Potter progressed, it obviously got considerably darker.
Oh God, didn't it?
But the setting will have alleviated some of those fears. With
it was
it's the world. You recognise the world. You recognise Hogwarts.
Yeah.
You recognise Harry and Ron and Hermione. And even in the 6th book, in the 6th film, like, arguably the silliest of all of the fucking books until the end, where it is literally just a teen drama where it's like, oh, but does she love me? Oh, but Ron doesn't like me. Oh, but she's been cursed. But who
I can't go out with my friend's sister.
That was the thing. It was like, yes, okay, this is like, teens are that ridiculous. Yeah. I'm really sorry if you're a teenager listening to this.
I'm not.
I promise you, you're that ridiculous.
Looking back on it, you'll thank us.
You will.
You'll agree.
Everybody does eventually.
Because every teen is like an episode of New Girl, of just like that real dumbass kind of love me not, you're an arsehole, look at my butt, wiggle.
Wiggle.
It's the bit where Jess and Nick are like, if you don't want to look at my face, Jess, then look at my ass, and then they start like wiggling their butts at one another, and it's a bit odd. This is gotta get cut. Yeah. This is absolute rubbish.
It's all in. Everything's in. The gravy train doesn't stop.
I agree with everything you just said, but I was going for a bit more on the top layer for most people who won't look deper into the stories.
You're both like layers.
Yes.
Not everybody.
Harry Potter, like ogres, has layers. I was more pointing towards that all of those extra or other books, they're all dystopian in the sense that they're dystopian futures.
Yeah.
That everything's yet to come, but Harry Potter's expressly set in the 90s, sort of the past to us. So those that look back at it, it's like, oh, even if this was real, it's all gone now. It's all been solved. There's no need to worry anymore. Whereas a dystopian future, such as the likes of Divergent, Maze Runner, etc., it's still that idea that, hey, this is fiction. Oh no, somebody could take inspiration from this. Yeah, exactly. This could be a future.
No woo-wooing on the podcast, please and thank. I'm gonna railroad us slightly. I'm really sorry, guys. On to the second question, which we've kind of slightly covered, but what was the fantasy media that shaped your view currently of fantasy? So, like, for me, I'm gonna get this in now because it gives you guys time to think. I already know my answer for this one.
Fair enough.
Mine, as you guys both know, when you came in very hungover and just sat with me watching it, was Stardust.
Yeah.
That film, like, watching it again recently, man, my view of magic and how magic should work. And, like, that's, spoilers for Stardust if you haven't seen it, and if you haven't, pause this, go and watch it. It's incredible.
Watch it. Like, comment, and subscribe what you thought about Stardust.
I actually hate you so much.
Imagine if there was a button where you could literally subscribe your feelings.
I want to subscribe my feelings, actually. Can I get a subscription to Happy for a while? Or it's like that one Doctor Who episode.
Oh god, that was a weird.
That was a dark
Gridlock,
episode.
Right?
Yeah,
Gridlock.
it was.
Yeah, Gridlock.
I hate all of the episodes where they go to New York. They always have this like really creepy vibe to me. Like, I was terrified of the fucking the one in the hospital with the cats.
With the cats and
With
all of
the
the
cats,
infected
The plague
people.
victims.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah,
sorry,
half
derailing.
pass.
Hello.
Oh, crumbs. Right. Stardust.
Yes.
There's a scene towards the end where one of the, you think, antagonists, but then he's not particularly. Like, the witch uses this voodoo doll and drops it in water, and he drowns in midair of nothing. And it's incredible to watch, and I know for a fact that just kind of shaped my view of fantasy and how, because I'm writing a fantasy book, it shaped my view of how I want to write my fantasy book. I want to invoke those feelings of, holy shit, this is fucking cool to watch.
So sort of like is that a soft magic system where magic sort of has like less defined rules? Sort of everything's a little bit more loosey-goosey. Magic can kind of do almost anything.
Yeah, like, I like that, because I think if you're going to have magic, don't have it to have, like, hard parameters, because then it's like, well, what's the point? I would rather just not, because that feels like a lot of effort to learn, to have very little reward.
I don't want to read in this book! Fucking
well, like,
no!
God bless Jack as well for having to deal with me this, but I watched Shadow and Bone recently, and
I'm not a fan.
It's very
I've not watched
YA.
it, no opinion.
The dialogue was it was too cringy for me.
The thing is that we're not. It's
I know we're not the
primary
target audience,
but also they cast Ben Barnes in it, so yes, I wholly was its primary audience. But their magic system, in which only, like, if you're an Inferni, you can do fire magic. If you're a tailor, but then if you're a tailor, you can, like, take away people's scars and blemishes. You can change their faces, and it was, I don't know. Their magic system confused me slightly. But I far prefer the Stardust thing of, like, yes, we'll eat the heart of a star, and that way we'll have more magic. Like, that's quite fun. Also, the mirror scene in Stardust is incredible, where she's got a back turn and just pushes her hands together and all the mirrors around them start to shatter. So good.
I'm trying to think now what specifically would have shaped my experience or my view.
I have a couple if you need a little bit longer to think.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Avatar: The Last Airbender definitely shaped a lot of my fantasy. I think it's why I do prefer, as opposed to soft magic systems, hard magic systems, magic where, like in my D&D campaign, where magic has rules, magic has limits, magic has only so much that you can do with it. It's not an unlimited source. It's not a sort of an untappable thing. Earthbenders can only ever bend when there is earth around. Firebenders can bend anywhere so long as, you know, they have heat in their bodies. Waterbenders can only bend with water. Airbenders can suck the life out of you because they're fucking terrifying, and they became monks to give everybody else a chance.
So scary.
And the only reason why the Air Nomad Nation gets genocide is because they have the comet, and that's canon, because otherwise the Air Nomads are an unstoppable force. Anyway, diverting off a railroad.
Bloodbending is cool, though.
Bloodbending is really cool. But yeah, Avatar: The Last Airbender definitely influenced a lot of me. Then also when I started to get into Warhammer, specifically 40k, the 40k universe, that really influenced me a lot in terms of my appreciation of Gothic and sort of more grimdark stuff. That it's a very common grimdark setting, especially to sort of start out in. But it definitely had a lot of influence. And of course, then the more I got into Star Wars, the more that sort of shaped me. Especially, I have very fond memories. It's from quite a young age, actually, of watching all of the behind-the-scenes stuff of Star Wars, because I wanted more Star Wars content. Revenge of the Sith, I think, had come out by this point, and they were saying, that's it, no more Star Wars films. And I remember being on the playground and kids being like, oh, they're going to make a Star Wars 7. Me being like, nah, they'll never do that. And they did, and I wish they didn't, but that's by the by.
Which one's Star Wars?
Force Awakens.
Force Awakens. That's the one. And it's my opinions on that are that my opinions on Star Wars
that
can be an entire fucking podcast. It really certainly could. But
yeah,
getting back on track, ignoring the goblin energy.
This is why we're called the Goblin Cave, by the way.
Because we scurry around the nearest shiny. We scurry around the nearest shiny idea that we have, and we're like, ooh. Ignoring the pile of fucking ideas we have in the fucking corner. No, it's this one. This particular little gold coin of an idea. Anyway. Oh, yes, that was what I was talking about. I have a very strong fondness for looking through the behind-the-scenes stuff for Star Wars, especially the Empire of Dreams documentary, where it talked a lot about George Lucas's influences and how a lot of his influences were stuff like Kurosawa films and I forget the name of the book. I'd need to Google it, but the specific book that he got the idea of the main character archetypes, the hero story archetype.
Mm-hmm.
I forget the name of the book, but it's something like Many Faces or whatever. I'm sure somebody can comment and subscribe to give me the answer.
I'm gonna apparate into your room and just absolutely slaughter you.
Wasn't even planned, but yes, please do comment, and subscribe. Give me the answer, please. I'll Google it after this. But
I'll Google it after this, after I've spoken about it and the moment has passed.
But I think I got really into fantasy mechanically, rather than I think reading a lot of fantasy. I got into the archetypes of fantasy. I got into the storytelling, noticing it in different films. That's the sort of stuff that really stuck with me. And then noticing it in stuff like Shakespeare or what have you, because I ended up becoming a theatre nerd.
This is another forewarning. The three of us are massive theatre nerds.
Yeah.
It's not good. It's not pretty.
It's plenty of podcast material.
Yeah,
it is. It's a whole host of ridiculousness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But that can be for the inevitable part 69.
Hey.
Yes. Why are you the way that you are?
Because I want to get to 69 episodes. No reason.
Yeah.
No reason.
No
reason. If you're watching this, hi, Mum.
Watching.
Listening to this while you're...
This is my voice on TV. For anybody who did not recognise that, I'm sure somebody will have done, but the oh god, it was like Treehouse of Horror, like episode 7 or something like that.
You and the Treehouses of Horror.
They're the best
really
Simpsons
good.
episodes.
They are Simpsons episodes.
They are the best Simpsons episodes.
The only other one that tops that is the one where Homer doesn't go to church and then the house gets set on fire.
No, Sideshow Bob episodes.
Bob.
Those are the best episodes because it's got Kelsey Grammer in it.
I fuck with Sideshow Bob. He is one of my favourite characters. No, he is my favourite character.
He's good.
I've got a couple. I do think I have a couple. Pretty sure I have a couple.
For those of you that can't see, because you're listening to this, Jack's face is the face of a liar.
Everyone.
Well, you can see.
Except for our Patreon subscribers who get the videos for free. They don't. You don't get
obviously,
to see
yes. Yeah.
We need to...
Yeah. We've already touched one with we touched two realistically with Star Wars and 40k. The whole I suppose in both ways, both of those sorts of fantasy, especially magic systems, they're very much give and take systems. That everything you give out, there's always a price to pay, be it exerting just physical energy in terms of the force, or there's a very literal chance your soul is ripped from your body in terms of 40k through the warp and the sort of possession of demons and that sort of idea. A classic one is just obviously Lord of the Rings, where there's very little magic that we actually see.
That's true.
Which is the strange thing. It's behind it's sort of behind closed doors, especially in
Gandalf is just tricking everyone.
Yeah,
He's not actually a wizard. He just like
he
whacked
just likes
a rock
weed.
in its like weakest point and was like, "Hark, the magic son."
But like, especially in the original trilogy, it's not that they shy away from it. They realize that the magic takes away from the rest of the world, because magic in itself is such an interesting, and it's very much the eye-catching event of pretty much any scene it's in. And for example, the scene with the Balrog, if the Balrog wasn't so stunning, this huge like demonic fire beast, the whole thing of Gandalf just being like, I smash bridge you cannot pass,
Haha, no.
everybody be like, oh my god, everything would just still be on the Balrog. And I think that's sort of the storytelling, like you mentioned, Seb, the storytelling of fantasy. It's very central, especially to Lord of the Rings, over the action. Like every action sequence, every combat sequence or magic sequence in the original trilogy of Lord of the Rings has a story point as opposed to glorified combat.
Yeah.
So, like, even the jest between Gimli and Legolas in Helm's Deep and Pelennor Fields, it's never a haha, or at least to me, it never comes across as a haha, we're doing this just to see how many people we kill. It's very much a, this could be our last night together, or this could be our last day fighting together. We are building our bonds of brotherhood so tight by protecting each other, protecting these people, and sort of saving people. And it comes across all the way through. So, although it's overshadowed by the Battle of Pelennor Fields, the storming of the Black Gate, it's never combat for the sake of combat. If anything was going to be a combat for the sake of combat scene, it would be the Battle at the Black Gate. You'd have Gandalf twirling spells around, taking out the massive troll, just blowing up the gate itself. But it never comes across as a, we're just here to fight. Yeah. The emotion and the storytelling and the characterization of each of those specific characters is so fine-tuned and filled with emotion that you feel like you're about to lose them. You feel like that their quest is never to kill, it's to
save.
Yeah, it's to save, and the story is always progressed by it. Like, you see, granted, occasionally, I enjoy a wanton violent film that's just action for the sake of action.
Yeah.
And it's just to let out stress, let out steam, and sometimes you just want to see like somebody's head get blown up by whatever. But sort of that idea of storytelling sort of layered in through scenes of such heightened emotion, fear, rage, anger, and aggression. It's very much sort of shaped how I think that the story, especially in fantasy-wise, the story needs to come first a lot more than the combat. Even when there is combat, and I suppose it's showing a lot through our D&D campaigns at the moment that like the idea that unless there's a story goal, or unless there's something that can help us progress what we need to do as characters, as an entire world, we've gradually been going away from, oh, hey, this guy's not helping us, let's kill him.
Yeah.
We've become less murder hobo and
we've
more...
moved away from the murder hobo situation, yeah.
we're becoming the more just hobo with our spending habits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Money.
But yeah, my rant about Lord of the Rings aside, that was obviously a big one. Very recently, obviously, D&D, looking through all the rule books, the campaign settings, any of the expanded stuff. Very much, I do see as fantasy now as like this story-driven, high magic, lots of sorcerers and sort of powered beings that even in a setting like they are, they're never deemed too powerful. There's always a chance that everybody can shine, but it's never anybody shines too much to the point where they're unbelievable.
I think kind of piggybacking. Thank you.
Yeah, piggybacking.
On that, something that I love within fantasy that is a trope that you see time and time again is idiot with magic. So you have Harry Potter, who's never seen past the end of his nose.
No.
Like, that boy had no idea what was going on. There was
a Tumblr post I found.
Him
yeah, God.
about Voldemort, he wouldn't have known.
Who's Voldemort? Shh. Oh God, cool. Okay, I'll not talk about it. Like there was a Tumblr post that I think I sent to our chat the other day, or one of us sent, where it was just like, if all of these headcanons and meta stuff and homebrewed ideas about Hogwarts and the Harry Potter world, they could all easily be canon. Because let's face it, Harry Potter is the most unobservant boy in the universe. The boy didn't even notice he was a fucking wizard. Like
he like chatted to snakes and was like, "This is fine."
He talked to a snake who was just like, "Can't all like 10-year-old kids do that who really hate their cousins?"
Like,
really? No? Okay, I guess so.
But yes, like, relative hatred. It brings out the magic in us.
Oh boy, oh boy.
But like, Harry is not the only one.
Oh no.
Because also Gandalf, absolute
Percy Jackson.
moron.
Ooh, why Gandalf moron? I feel like this is gonna rustle Jimmy's. Why Gandalf moron?
Gandalf moron because he looked at the words "speak friend" and "enter" and didn't think to say "friend" in Elvish. That's why Gandalf moron. Gandalf moron because he turned around to hobbits who'd never left their homes and went, "Hey, you guys want to take a ring to a fucking volcano?" Like, dude, please, they're like 2. Leave them alone.
Well, they're not 2. They're like 40-ish, aren't they? They're just
40.
Because of how
it's
hobbits
Frodo's
work.
60.
Sorry?
Is Frodo 60?
Yeah, Frodo's like 60-ish, I think.
At the time of the journey to Mordor, yeah, he's about 60. I'm sure it's like... although it's
Bilbo's
never...
111?
11
yeah, but he's only that old because he
21.
has the ring.
Yeah,
but
I suppose it's not as expressly shown in the Peter Jackson trilogy of the gigantic time skip between Bilbo leaving the ring with Frodo to Frodo and company leaving the Shire on their quest.
Yeah.
It's about 20 years, isn't it?
It's longer. It's like 50 or so.
All right.
It's a long time between The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. And that's why Gandalf being like, "You haven't aged a day" is actually a really important line, because that's the moment where he realizes something fucky going on, because you should be dead by now.
He fully like looked at this man who didn't age a day and was like, "Is it skincare? Is it a cursed ring? Only time will tell." This is not to say I don't love Gandalf. I adore him. I think he's a phenomenally written character. He just falls into that thing of magic beings who are morons, such as Percy Jackson. You said, Edmund
I know that
Pevensey.
there's a reason, though. I know that there's a reason for why it's that specific speak friend and enter thing doesn't happen. And my housemates explained this to me, and I've completely forgotten it. But there's a specific reason. There's a thing. I don't know. Maybe it's just he overthought it. Who knows?
Yeah, probably. It was probably like a D&D campaign of like, this feels too easy.
These fucking idiots.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, is like, idiocy within fantasy games just makes complete sense, because almost every, like, again, this is literally just because I watched it very recently. Spoilers for Shadow and Bone. If you couldn't already tell, Ben Barnes plays the bad guy because he looks like a bad guy. And Alina.
And he's British.
God bless all the
Only British people can be
change.
bad people.
Only British people can, to be fair.
In American produced...
In history.
In America... Well, these white men are dangerous.
It's true.
True.
That's
It's
real
very
life.
true.
But yeah, like, Alina, God bless her soul, found out that she was a sun summoner, which... Can't say it without thinking of Chim Chimmery, because it just works.
It's just me thinking of the little Sums from Disney.
Sum. She, like, goes around, like, starts to, like, get it on with this really tall, dark, handsome man. And then his ma turns around and was like, hey, you know he's a bad guy, right? And she was like, what? No, you mean the man that summons darkness is a bad guy?
You mean the man who summoned a demon into my hometown is a bad person? I just thought he had a hobby.
Like, darling, it's in every single... It is a trope, I think, that we don't talk about enough, is that if there is magic in the world, there is a moron wielding it somewhere.
Yeah.
Edmund Pevensey is a moron even though he doesn't wield magic.
Yeah.
He's a big moron. And then there are others that my brain can't currently reach. Like, in Inkheart, Dustfinger. I love Dustfinger. He's one of my favourite characters. I think he's phenomenal. I think Inkheart is a brilliant series of books. Dustfinger is like, oh, you won't read me back into the book? I know. I'll go to Capricorn. I'll go to the bad guy that I know is a bad guy, and I'll ask him for help. And he can kidnap you and your daughter. And it's like,
oh,
please,
okay.
Dustfinger, why?
Desperation.
Bad mistakes.
Bad mistakes. I genuinely can't say anything with the way that I play my characters, but God,
I think we've all played at least one person who just sort of, and like again, it's a trope, but it also falls into it's a part of the hero's journey. The sort of like what is it? It's like the character who doesn't know how the world works, so they serve as like a touchstone for the audience who also don't know how the world works. So it's like somebody to explain the world to. Like that trope I really enjoy. And I know it annoys some people because it's sometimes very heavy-handed and it's very poorly done, but like it's useful. It's a nice little creative device.
It is, and it also gives that really nice kind of stress where the hero suddenly realizes, oh God, this person I thought I could trust more than anyone, I can't.
You done thunk wrong, Aaron.
But yeah, it's one of those. It's a phenomenal device, but I do think Harry gets unfairly kind of put upon because there's one in every book.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, there's always a Harry.
Harry's just like at the furthest end of this scale of like, oh, Hermione's a girl? Oh yeah. Cool, I like your pink dress, even though it wasn't pink in the book.
It wasn't pink in the book. But then also, you know, is that not all teenage boys who like at 11 go to
Honestly.
a mixed school and like have a female friend, and then suddenly around about 14, 15, they're like, wait, women? What if women? Like, again, and that's going back to Harry Potter. There's a lot of talk about Harry Potter in this. Like,
I know, I'm really sorry.
That's why growing up, it's a really nice book to read when you're growing up as a kid, because you're just like, I do that. There's a lot of recognizing yourself in a lot of the characters that are written.
Yeah.
Whether or not, you know, they're written by a terrible human being with terrible opinions and views is neither here nor there. It is very here
you
and
can,
there, but
there's amazing on AO3 like AU stuff that just makes the other stuff better. But it is that thing of, like, girls don't exist until the age of 14, you know?
It's true.
You know, as a woman, I popped into existence at the age of 14.
That's how they happen.
It's an incredible feat of nature.
It's
we just pop.
Magic.
Every time we keep saying magic, that genuinely is the only thing I can think of. Is just
Mr. Bean. Mr. Bean is the most amazing influence for me for fantasy. Mr. Bean started my love of fantasy. Mr.
And
Bean
Teddy.
Mr. Bean and Teddy are mythical characters, though. Because I refuse to believe that a man with that amount of bad but good luck can just, like, wander about in his little fucking Yugo or whatever it is, the car he has. And
It's got a mini, you heathen.
Fucking, I don't know cars. British.
There's not knowing cars, and then there's not knowing a British icon of a vehicle.
Oh, it's the little fucking car, the little yellow car.
It's not only Mr. Bean, you've got the Italian job with Michael Caine saying you're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off. You know, you've got him.
Michael Caine is my favourite fantasy actor. Thank you. Good night.
He was incredible in the Muppets.
That's the end of the podcast. Boop, like, comment, subscribe.
We're never doing another episode.
That's it.
But again, I'm going to railroad us again. I'm really sorry.
We jumped off a cliff.
God, we really
That's just like the end of the Italian job, guys.
Hey, don't come back to the
difference.
Italian job.
The best fantasy score. What, in your opinion, is the best fantasy score?
Oh, no, that's
me.
Honestly, I have like two. I have two films that I think have got the most phenomenal scores.
Is one of them Harry Potter?
It is. One of them is. Are
they both John Williams scores?
No.
Well, this is the thing, because they kept changing the sound design for the Harry Potter films. Like, I'm pretty sure when it changes directors, the directors always bring in a new scorist. Scorist?
Scorist?
Composer. That's the word.
Wow.
Scorist. That's a thing, isn't it? But yeah, because they keep changing it. So I hesitate to say that Harry Potter has the best one, because it's not consistent. While it's good, but they keep changing.
It's specifically the Goblet of Fire.
Okay.
It is specifically
I fight with that.
Where they it's the bit where they go into Hogsmeade. And I know them, like, I can hear the music in my head, and I'm not about to, like, sing it out loud for the internet to hear. But that, and then also the Yule Ball, I love it. I think it's phenomenal. And then the other one is Hal's Moving Castle. Oh my god, that fantasy score is beautiful. And I love Hal Pendragon. I love them with all of my heart.
Yeah.
They're just absolutely incredible.
Icon.
It's just where he's like, well, I'm no longer beautiful, so now I will melt into nothing.
But dude,
do that
you
on
just
the daily.
Literally, it's like, cool.
Yeah.
You're now a brunette, but sure.
That is the reaction to becoming a brunette, though. You're just like, well, I'm just gonna top myself. That's it. I'm sorry.
That's how we three as brunettes.
Yeah. The three of us being naturally dark-haired.
Laterally dark-haired.
Laterally dark-haired with a scorers.
Yes. Incredible.
Today's word
This is going to be on the internet. This is going to be on the internet.
Wow.
Forever.
Consistently, I'd say John Williams doing the Star Wars soundtrack.
Yeah.
There are certain things. As much as I do think Attack of the Clones is the worst of the prequels.
It's got some banging music, though.
But I know it's going to sound proper cheesy and everything, but the theme for Padme and Anakin is a top-notch piece of music.
Across the Stars is one of the best love themes actually just described, designed. That's the one. Words!
Because it has, although it's because of the points in the film where, specifically, I'm thinking the arena on Geonosis. It has the points where the big bass drum comes boof, boof, and more of the deeper tones start to come through, but it always shifts back to the lighter, more ethereal. It's probably the best way to describe it in a sense.
I've very fond memories of that soundtrack because my dad gave me, when I was like 9, 10 maybe, gave me his iPod Classic. Like the one of the first ones where you could actually choose the music. It wasn't like an MP3 player, and back then that was a massive fucking thing. Everybody was like, "Whoa, you could like choose your own music there." Whoa, dude.
Whoa, dude.
Hey, bug dude. Otto.
Whoa,
hey, bug
Windows. I can't afford this place.
That's everyone under the
millennials
age of 40
be like,
in the UK.
wow. But
wow, relatable. Otto.
Window tax. Is this the Georgian era?
Oh man, window tax. But very specifically, I remember on this iPod Classic there being there were other songs on it, obviously, but in terms of just Star Wars, it just had the Attack of the Clones soundtrack. I think it was because it was the most recent one that had come out, so my dad downloaded it totally legally. And
there's no proof
put
that he
it on
didn't?
there. And I just remember, and this is a very specific memory, constantly going through specifically the Geonosis battle music and just imagining my own Star Wars battles in my head. Of like using that as like a backdrop to it, and sort of like
absolutely.
And I think that's where a lot of my fun of creating imaginary worlds came from, of like running around with my iPod Classic playing, pretending to be in this fantasy other world.
That's very cute.
It's very adorable. But for me, as a kind of like what's the best fantasy score, I would probably also say Star Wars. But having now listened to Lord of the Rings, to be fair, Lord of the Rings is a fantastic one. Howard Shore.
I was so surprised that you didn't say Concerning Hobbits.
Oh no, I was going to move on to that.
Oh, sorry.
Concerning Hobbits.
This is the only piece of music that will make Jack cry.
Oh, it's just beautiful. The tin whistle in Concerning Hobbits makes me feel emotions.
He genuinely wells up.
There's also, as much as I love the entire soundtrack, Concerning Hobbits and The Charge of the Rohirrim in Return of the King. The goosebumps I get seeing that scene.
The orc music. The orc music just slaps. Yeah. Just hits different.
I think it's just... I know it's because it's... they've just reused the theme for Rohan in The Charge of the Rohirrim. I think it's just the Rohan music that gets me as well. There's something about just the way it hits. It hits different.
Just hits the vibes. The vibes are just
the vibes.
I've got a bit of a weird
the boys
one.
In charge of the Rohirrims.
Yes, me and the boys rocking
Summer
up for the charge.
2021 vibes.
I have got a bit of a weird one, and I know you hate the film because it's so cheesy.
What?
1991, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, starring Kevin Costner.
I don't hate it. I just don't love it.
Shout, actually. That's got some good music in it.
For listeners who haven't seen it, although I expect they'll have seen very specific... Watch it, it's great. It's got Alan Rickman in threatening to carve Kevin Costner's heart out with a spoon. Top notch.
Don't we all want to?
Top notch.
It's worth it for Alan Rickman and for Kevin Costner clearly phoning it in every fucking scene that he has given up completely for the entirety of that movie. He's just like, wow, they're gonna start executing people. That's horrible. It's like,
It has the same energy as that horror film where it's like, they're eating her.
Trolls 2.
And then they're gonna eat me. It has like similar vibes.
Yeah, it's that time sort of peak Christian Slater era as well.
Slater. Christian Slater in that film is uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's just an uncomfortable
He is.
actor. Like, perfectly cast as Jason Dean in Heathers, and then from that point on, everybody was just like, "Oh, so that's okay. That's
Edgy
great,
teen.
then. That's fine.
That's
Okay.
what you do.
Yeah,
You
what
talk
you do.
about chaos killing the dinosaurs, darling, and killing high schoolers, but that's it. That's
That's
Cool.
range. That's range, baby.
Yeah.
that's range, baby.
Yeah. But specifically, there's the very. It's in the opening credits when it's going through
Oh, crumbs!
the
talking about
equivalent.
music.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
The equivalent of their hashing up of the bio tapestry, just telling Robin Hood's tale instead of the Battle of Hastings, etc. The music over that, if you haven't heard it from Prince of Thieves, you may have heard it from the classic Disney advert of Disney DVD. Bring your bring your favorite classics home with you on Disney DVD. It's the brilliant music that's behind that.
Oh, I know which one you mean.
You know exactly what I mean.
Yeah.
And it's great.
Oh, man.
But it's just the fact
think of what he says.
it's Prince of Thieves, but Disney thought, yes, we're going to use Robin Hood's music to advertise Beauty and the Beast, Snow White, and other priceless classics of our animated age.
That's actually a good point. No, just going back to like fantasy influences, just Disney in general.
Just Disney.
Just Disney.
Yeah.
Because like
Disney
honestly,
was a massive
yeah.
one. Disney and Shrek.
Shrek.
Like, I know that sounds super dumb.
Okay, I'm
but
changing my answer.
Shrek.
Best fantasy soundtrack, Shrek. All of them. Just all of the Shrek. Or Shrek.
Shrek.
Including the musical?
Yes,
Shrek
of
the
course
musical
we
is a banger. Right. I'm really sorry, listeners. Super quick. Who I'd Be from Shrek the musical has no right on God's green earth to be as phenomenal as it is. Into the skies I'd throw it, the stars would do the telling, the moon would help the spelling, and night would dot the eyes. They were like, we're gonna take
Ass
a
poetry.
story about an ogre and then write this phenomenal song.
They almost went as hard as Phil Collins on Tarzan.
No one went as hard as Phil Collins on Tarzan.
Legit. Disney turned around to Phil Collins and said, "Oh yeah, Phil, we just need like a nice little ditty for our Tarzan thing." And Phil Collins just went, "Oh man, I'm gonna give you so much shit. You're gonna be fucking. Oh, they'll make a musical with this one. I'll tell you that for free."
It was like, it's the same as like Prince of Egypt, where it's like, yeah, so we're gonna retell the story of Moses, and he was like, interesting. So what I'm hearing
Stephen
is
Schwartz was just
the
like,
most heart-wrenching score you've ever heard.
"I'm gonna make it brilliant." Oh,
So the shepherdess. Oh, it's so good.
oh, there was another one. Oh, I just had it in my head, and then we talked about Phil Collins, and I got excited.
Music scores or Disney? We've gone so far off
Disney,
tangent.
Disney scores specifically.
Yeah.
And it was well. Carry on, it'll come back to me.
Atlantis, Treasure Planet.
Fucking Treasure Planet, that underrated
Treasure
film.
Planet.
If you've not watched Treasure Planet, please go and watch it because it deserves to be watched.
If you've not seen Muppet Treasure Planet, also
that-
watch that, because Tim Curry in that film has one song, and it's the best good goddamn song.
It is his only number.
Oh, it's so good.
Oh, that's good.
He milks that performance for everything it's worth, and it's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
It's just phenomenal. But another one, sorry, Tim Curry, Rocky Horror Picture Show. Another amazing, like, sci-fi fantasy
Yeah.
musical. Because that is exactly what it is. For all of its insanity, it is just a sci-fi,
Yeah.
well, science fiction
theatre.
double feature.
Oh, I
Yeah.
got it. I remembered
Go
what
on.
I was going to say. It's Only Made of Stone from the Hunchback of Notre Dame musical. And I remember seeing a
Musical.
TikTok about this, about like somebody walking in and be like, "Oh, so you're recording the music?" And it's like the recording of Only Made of Stone. And it's like, wow, you got this entire song from just one line that a gargoyle says in the movie? Wow.
One of the most annoying characters says, Oh,
We're only
that
made of
song
stone.
is so good. We just thought that you were made of something stronger. Like,
Because I do remember like watching that as a kid and like hearing the gargoyles say that and being like, wow, that's a really good line for this film. Wow, that's really cool. And then hearing it in the musical and being like, they said the thing.
it is absolutely phenomenal. But we've done that thing again.
What?
Well, we've completely gone right off
We've
script.
just key lift off a cliff.
I'll bring it back, actually.
Go on.
Okay.
Heading away from films.
Okay.
The Skyrim soundtrack.
Oh yeah.
Dover
Skyrim
Key.
is a good soundtrack.
And then there is the classic gaming icon of a piece of music that is One Winged Angel.
Oh,
From Final Fantasy VII.
Well, Final Fantasy has just always had amazing, iconic music. Like it's embedded itself into gaming culture as being incredibly diverse with its range of music, with its soaring scores, really quiet moments like Eris's death theme. Oh, spoilers if you haven't played Final Fantasy VII. Sorry. If you haven't played this 20-year-old PS1 game,
Came out when I was born.
Some shit happens to Eris, and let's just say that you can't use a Phoenix Down to revive her.
They are unalived.
Yes.
Unalived.
But I suppose it's one of those. If we're going to gaming, the best soundtracks usually are those that are predominantly the seminal single-player experience. So like you say, The Witcher has got a great soundtrack because it needs it, because you're going through story moments. Final Fantasy, obviously, all of them are just incredible single-player games. Apart from is it Final Fantasy 14 that's the online one?
Yeah, that's the one that's online, which apparently is quite good. I've heard it's quite good.
Yeah, it wasn't when it's thingy, but they literally rebuilt the world.
Well,
they made it good.
They do that a lot with MMORPGs, though. Like, I remember when the Star Wars MMO came out, and it was trash, and I was so excited for it. I'd asked my parents for it for Christmas, because this is, back before it was subscription service, free to play sort of situation.
Yeah, it was 2011 it came out, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Oh
2011.
God, it's been out 10 years.
Yeah. And my God, it's changed in the 10 years that it's been out. And it happens a lot with MMORPGs, because all of them have tried, obviously, to copy World of Warcraft. And some of them are way more successful than others. Like, I'm trying to think of one that was successful.
To be honest, Old Republic now is... The fact it's still going means it has a great measure of success, especially with... I think that is down to the way they changed the format that you can choose your companions' roles, making it a lot easier for a player to get through the story, which was the big stopping point for most things. ESO, Elder Scrolls Online, is another relatively successful one. They're still bringing out expansions. Let's not go about the other Bethesda online game. We'll leave that off the charts.
The fallout from that one was bad.
Ooh.
So I don't play video games, dear listener. However, I can tell by pointed tones what that was supposed to mean.
It was not good.
I
tell you what, although it's not fantasy, a great video game soundtrack, I'm just going to throw it out there. 2016, Doom.
Yes. Doom has always just had really good music, because it had just a lot of really good metal music. Yeah, that was actually a lot of my introduction to metal music, was just hearing some of the original Doom music, playing through the first Doom and just being like, oh, I like this music. It's grungy. Okay, cool. And then actually getting into other metal music once I finally got like a Spotify account. And be like,
they just went hard for making both soundtracks for both Doom and Doom Eternal. Like, they went hard.
Well, so as I said, I'm not a video game player. However, one game that I have played is Undertale, which is fantasy. The music in that, like, one became so ingrained into, like, because like not millennial, not Gen Z, that kind of where we sit very uncomfortably generation.
95 to 2000, we're just like...
Yeah. The generation we don't have a name for, but we don't want to be Zoomers or millennials.
Yeah. Just kind of betwixters, I guess.
Twixters.
Twixters.
Betwixters.
Start hashtag Twixters, like, comment, and subscribe.
No. But that music, particularly, as you know, poor Jack has to deal, if I'm having one of the times where I'm trying to write, I will listen to Megalovania on repeat, full blast in my headphones for like an hour.
The problem is, you showed me the edited version of Jack Black on the Jimmy Fallon show when he's got the saxophone.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, motherfuckers.
So they edited over the actual saxophone sound with Megalovania.
It's so good.
I'm just like, oh my god, why? Why have they done this?
Toby Fox is an amazingly talented man for having like done all of the shit that he did for fucking for Undertale.
Yeah, like because the music is just unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
And then the storyline is great, and the characters, and I just adore Papyrus and Sans. I love them.
I mean, also,
they're my sons.
Indie shout out again to Stardew Valley for again having an amazing soundtrack, which is like if everyone needs to relax and calm down, just put on the Stardew Valley soundtrack, because my god, Concerned Ape, I think that's the name of the creator, Concerned Ape.
It is indeed.
It is just beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. The game is gorgeous as well. It's insane.
It's so
I'm pretty sure Concerned Ape just made the game all by himself, and maybe had like some help here and there, but like
unreal.
That's fucking unreal. Like that's an amazing game. And
now there's a board game which we still need to get our hands on.
There's a board game of it.
Well,
there's a board game. Yes,
that's cool.
I know.
I need to get more into board
games. We need to get our hands on that. But Toby Fox and Concerned Ape, unbelievable scores, amazing. If you want to concentrate on something, Undertale soundtrack. If you want to listen, vibe and chill, Stardew Valley soundtrack.
Oh yeah,
that's great. Yes.
Do we have more questions, or have we?
One more question.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question.
Thanks, Dad.
You're welcome,
fresh from the audience.
The next question is your favorite fantasy moment or quote.
Oh.
Mine has to be from The Mummy with Brendan Fraser, Rachel Weisz,
here we go.
Arnold Vosloo. It is my favourite. The reason why they are groaning is because it is my favourite film of all time.
It's a great film.
It's an amazing film.
It is at the height of filmmaking. I love it. But it has to be... Hey, Benny! What's the rule on the wrong side of the river? I love it. It's so dumb. I love it.
Not the one I was expecting.
Which one?
I was expecting... what's a place like me doing in a girl like this?
Yeah, something like that. My father was a very famous explorer, and he loved Egypt so much that he married my mother, who was an Egyptian, and quite the adventurer herself. I know that film inside out, back to front,
yes,
and every single word. Pity anyone who has to watch it with me.
Carve his heart out with a spoon. It's got to be up there.
Spoon.
It's a good contender.
But I don't know.
It's not sand.
No, it's not sand. It's coarse, rough, irritating.
It gets everywhere.
I hate it so much.
Awful.
I don't think it. No, I know what it is.
Oh gosh.
Hello there.
General Kenobi.
You are the bold one.
Oh man.
That
is a moment.
It's gotta be hello there. Ewan McGregor's delivery in that film.
McGregor's delivery.
Wait, can I change my answer?
No, you can't.
No,
of course
not. It's from the same film.
It's still from The Mummy.
It's still from The Mummy. It's the bit where Benny's like, "Come with me," and live forever. And then she's, for all eternity, idiot. I've realised that most of my personality is based off of Evelyn Carnahan.
I mean, yeah, fair. It's a good personality basis. It's a good blueprint for a human being, I think.
She is. I love her so much. Rather weighty, this.
Alex. Sound like Will and E. Big up, Will.
Big up, Will and E.
Oh, man, I'm trying desperately to think about what my favorite sort of like fantasy moment would be. It's hard. It's
so
hard.
Many.
It's hard to pinpoint. I'm trying to think of something that like evoked the right emotional response in me, and it might be something from. Yeah, I think it's probably the final episode of Star Wars: The Clone Wars TV show.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's another Star Wars thing, but
big shock.
Big shock. This is slowly going to be turned into a sci-fi and fantasy podcast.
I mean, it was going to anyway, wasn't it?
It was going to anyway. Goblin Cave will just,
We'll just goblin.
Space goblin. Space goblins. But I think it's very specifically the bit in that final episode where, spoilers for anybody who's not watched it yet, but it's the bit where Rex and Ahsoka are staring down at all of the clones that are about to go up and kill them. And it's just this moment where you see the soldier that is Rex, this strong, this always cool, level-headed wild card of a captain suddenly just break down because he can't think of a way out. He can't think of an option. And he's just shouting, and he cries to Ahsoka because he's got nothing. He's completely powerless, and it's so impactful. And I think that's probably my favorite moment in any fantasy thing ever. It's when the tough guys cry, when the soft guys are strong, when the bad guys soften.
The entire fellowship.
Yeah. Well, again,
their
it's the entirety of Lord of the Rings. It's whenever there's a character moment that is heartfelt, is emotional. Because I think for me it always comes back to like this little part of me that was an emotional kid who hid behind a lot of faces and a lot of masks. And it's just very nice to sort of watch these characters have their masks taken away and the real the softness underneath to be shown. I think any moment that's like that, I'm really into. I really like that. That's my answer. There you go. Like, comment, subscribe. How have we not mentioned Game of Thrones once in this podcast, actually?
Because,
how have we avoided mentioning Game of Thrones?
The ending ruined it for us, that's why.
It makes it so forgettable. Yeah. That was another thing of, Harry Potter.
My entire interest for Game of Thrones ended after the last season of Game of Thrones. I was just like, well, that's a shame.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Although, Sean Bean isn't the person who's died most on screen. I believe that title's held by Bela Lugosi, isn't it?
I mean, probably. He played Dracula more times than I've taken breaths.
Yeah.
I love Bela Lugosi. That's a whole other episode. But...
Yes, as is Christopher Lee, now that I'm thinking about that.
Christopher Lee. Really quick, Christopher Lee moment of just let's appreciate that man for how phenomenal he is.
Everybody, if you don't know enough about Christopher Lee, go on his Wikipedia page now.
30
Google
seconds.
Christopher Lee. Just look him up, because honestly, Christopher Lee has done so fucking much. He was in the war.
Much.
He was Dracula. He ended up being in the
band.
He had a rock band, a metal rock band.
He did
was in
a
Star
great
Wars,
Christmas
Lord of the Rings,
album.
obviously. Christmas album. Really good.
If you get the chance on YouTube, there is a brilliant rendition of him reciting The Raven for all you Edgar Allan Poe fans out there. His voice matches the poem extremely well. Have a listen to that.
But yeah, honestly, and if you haven't yet seen it, do watch him in The Wicker Man, the original one, not
Yeah.
Nick Cage.
Oh,
The original Wicker
also
Man.
watch the Nick Cage
Do not
version,
watch the Nick
because-
Cage version.
Watch the Nick Cage. Watch anything with Nicolas Cage in it, because
No.
honestly, that
He's
that
an
man deserves
Oscar-winning
every
actor,
Oscar.
Lauren.
To be fair,
He's an
Nicolas Cage
Oscar-winning
in
actor.
Mandy is horrifying. He is
Nicolas
so
Cage
scary
is
in
just horrifying.
He's
it. But
great.
like a good scary, like a
Yeah.
well acted scary. But yes, Christopher Lee.
Yeah.
And
Christopher Lee.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
A nice
I
place
won't-
to end it on, Christopher Lee.
That's
I think
Yeah.
final thoughts, Christopher Lee.
Final thoughts. Always
Um,
Christopher Lee.
First
I
thoughts
think-
of our first podcast. Christopher
Yeah.
Lee.
Christopher Lee. In conclusion, Lee.
Yes.
Christopher.
Christopher.
And in preclusion, Christopher.
Christopher.
Excellent. So yes, that was our first episode of the Goblin Cave podcast.
Yes.
I
Whatever that was.
Yes.
I apologise for the absolute train wreck that you've just listened to, and if you have
I do
gotten
not
this,
apologise, because if you got this far, then you're insane like us.
Yes.
if you did get this far as well, I'm genuinely interested because we'll be posting this to YouTube, I think, as well. Like, comment, and subscribe.
Subscribe.
Yeah.
But for your comments, answer our questions. What's your favourite fantasy book? What is
Yeah.
the fantasy media that shaped your view? What's your favourite fantasy score? And what's your favourite fantasy quote? I genuinely
Yeah.
would be super interested to...
Give us some recommendations as well
Yes.
that we can explore.
Yes, please.
We would
I
love
need
that.
I need more things in my repertoire.
Yes.
And if you have
Honestly.
any questions you want to ask us, also, hit us up on the Twitters.
Yes,
hit us up on
we
the
are-
YouTubes and the TikToks and
Give us
whatever
podcast
kids are
ideas.
into these days. Yes, give us podcast ideas. Give us questions. Give us thoughts, feelings, likes, comments, and subscribers.
Yes.
You can find us on Twitter at Goblin Cave Pod. You can find us on Instagram at Goblin Cave Pod once more. And then on TikTok, you can also find us at Goblin Cave Pod. It is the same across all social medias to try and make it easy for people like
We are
me who have the
consistent.
brain of a gnat.
Yes.
So, yes.
Consistency is key.
Consistency is key. Thank you again so much for listening to our first episode. It has been a lot of fun for us to record, and I hope it was
Yeah.
something that will make you smile
Let's hope so, anyway.
when
Yes,
Yeah.
you know, life is as shitty
Yes.
as it is at the moment. So
indeed.
look after yourselves, be kind, be good, and just give out as much love as you can today.
And love yourselves, guys.
Love yourselves.
And each other.
Yes. Love is and Christopher Lee.
And Christopher Lee.
Love Christopher Lee.
Love
Love
yes.
Christopher Lee.
Love as Christopher Lee would want you to love.